know that type of content that just hits when you're going through it, like maybe you're going through a breakup, maybe life just got a little bit messy, and suddenly TikTok hits you with, "You're the prize, walk away queen." Yeah, that type of content is Wizard Liz. For a lot of people, this is comfort content. It's kind of that one friend that's always there when you're at your lowest. A lot of people don't need deep, profound advice. They just need somebody to say, "Get up, you deserve better." And Liz gives that. In fact, she gives more than that. She gives that with luxury confidence and a little bit of that main character energy. But once you stick around long enough, things start to feel a little bit off. Like, how does somebody go from cleaning toilets to flying around the world at age 19 and living in high-rise apartments before even blowing up online? So today we're diving into the world of Wizard Liz, why her content feels so good and why people are starting to call her out, and whether she's really helping women or just selling them a polished version of the same toxic stuff. Hi, I'm Milana and let's get into it. I just wanted to say a little heads up that we have changed locations for today's video, and I've also got a different mic on, so I'm really sorry if this is just a little bit of a different vibe than my usual videos. Also, the fact that nobody asked if I was okay after the shocking lip combo that I debuted in my last video. Sorry, but what? You guys let me walk around looking like that. It's okay, I'll forgive you if you subscribe. The Wizard Liz started her internet journey back in 2021 on TikTok, and at first her content was pretty basic, just the usual random stuff that everybody was kind of posting at the time. But then, almost like a switch flipped, she completely changed directions and started doing motivational, women empowering content. Now, I don't know how true this is, but I did come across a comment claiming that during this early phase, Liz was dating wealthy men in Dubai whilst building up her TikTok following. Now, apparently she even uploaded a video titled "How to Get Rich by Dating Rich Guys," which got taken down by 24 hours of her posting it, probably because of backlash. I guess that type of content did not fly back in 2021, but I'm pretty sure if she were to upload the same thing now in 2025, nobody would really bat an eyelid. Anyways, after that, she decided to pivot towards self-love content, something to do with confidence, personal love, and personal growth. You know, the easiest show that you could do, and that really helped her blow up. Now, obviously, that comment about Dubai and the rich boyfriends is unconfirmed, but it is definitely something to keep in mind as we do dive deeper into how she was already living a pretty luxurious lifestyle before her social media really took off. Across her videos, Liz has spent a lot of time talking about her childhood and upbringing. She's actually been pretty open about the fact that she did not grow up wealthy. In fact, she does talk about coming from a poor family, struggling financially, and even working cleaning toilets at one point just to get by.
You need to realize that not everyone has a good heart or morals or feels bad about this stuff. No, most people don't. And you guys need to start realizing that the world is really harsh.
And to be fair, she's always presented that part of her story as something that shaped her mindset, like kind of like a personal origin story, and that explains why she's so obsessed with leveling up and never settling. It wasn't just the money stuff that influenced her, no. Liz talks a lot about her parents, especially her relationship with her dad. She describes him as abusive and emotionally damaging, someone with what she calls an ugly personality. And she said multiple times that she believes people who are toxic or evil on the inside actually start to look different on the outside. Like, you can see it in their face and their eyes. And you know what? I do, to a certain degree, agree with that, you know. But she said that about her dad. And she also mentioned that he was already divorced, not good looking, and had no money when he had met Liz's mum. Now, she frames this as one of her mum's biggest mistakes, and this basically affected the entire family that they were to have. In contrast to her dad, Liz does paint her mum as this incredibly smart, beautiful woman who had high standards and somebody who never really wanted to be tied down to a man unless he truly, truly met her expectations. But it's so weird because despite all of that, her mum still ended up with somebody who didn't treat her well.
My dad, since I was young, had such an issue with me because I would always defend my mother. Like, I was my mother's guardian angel, okay? When my mom would leave the house because he would abuse her, I would go with her. Like, as a child even, I was always by her side. Sometimes we would just sit hours on a bench outside and my mom would be crying and I would be like, taking her tears like this, like constantly, and I would just sit next to her. I had like eyes like eagle on my mom.
Liz was like a big mom.
I was like obsessed because I was just like, I have to protect this woman. And I hated my father because of it, because I just saw what monster he was, what he did to what he did to her, what he did to my siblings. I hated it. So then he hated me since I was young, so he always had like a vendetta against me because of that. Vendetta. And then when I would go to work and I would come home, so he would beat me up because I was home late. But the thing was, like, at work, my boss thought that I didn't want to work because I was always so anxious that after 12, like, I was like, I have to go home, so I was trying to do my job fast. And they were thinking, like, I don't want to work, but it's not that. I couldn't tell them I'm going to get beat up, you know?
And who couldn't really provide her the kind of life that she deserved. Now, that experience left a pretty big impact on Liz, and she brings it up often when explaining why she now refuses to date who she calls men with broke mindsets, or broke men with broke mindsets. Now, I do want to touch on this topic a little bit because me and Liz come from very similar backgrounds, although I have great relationships with both my parents. But as somebody who grew up very poor, I also do tend to seek men that are more financially stable. Is that a big problem? No. But you know what? I'm also myself financially stable. My issue arises when you are seeking men who are financially stable, and the sole reason you are doing that is because you yourself are not financially stable and you just want someone to provide you stability. I feel like you should go and find your own stability, and then it's fine if you want to find a man who is also as financially stable as you. When you're using somebody for financial stability because of your past, I think that's where you're crossing a line into, this is a little bit, cheap. That is broke mindset. But this mindset is a really huge part of her online persona. For her, it's not about dating rich guys for fun or just like to travel the world or whatever. She actually sees it as a form of survival and self-respect. And I do see how, in a way, it is a way of self-respect. But for her, it's just a way of making sure she never ends up like her mum. Stuck in a difficult relationship with a man who brings her down instead of lifting her up. And I think, she does look for the most easiest thing you can, which is if a man is financially stable.
I'm attracted to money, I'm attracted to power, I am attracted to a man that is in his masculine energy and is willing to provide and protect. That is what I want in a man. I am truly telling you, if a man is not willing to provide for me, I would much rather date a woman.
But if the man is emotionally open and whatever, it's a little bit harder. So I think there is a disconnect here where she's just picked out one thing from the one relationship that she observed throughout childhood, and she was like, I don't want that, and just decided that if a man has money, he must be good enough. But that is simply just not the case. And when you do hear her talk about it, it doesn't seem in a gold-digging way. In the context of her life, it's not superficial or gold-digging. Like, you understand where she's coming from.
One day I'm gonna become a mother. I'm gonna create a beautiful family for myself. And I don't want my children to have a father figure that wasn't consistent or that wasn't good to me. I saw that growing up and that completely destroyed me. I want to create a family where love is something that they know. Where they know that, oh, my parents love each other, my parents love us. I don't want them to go through the same struggles as me, so I need to do things differently. If the person that you're dating, if the person that you have around you, you don't think that they would be a good father or a good husband, why are you there?
Do you want an abusive person as a parent to your children? Because it's one thing them being abusive to you, but tomorrow when you have children and your partner is being abusive to the children, then those lives are ruined.
She sees it kind of as protecting herself from the same repeated cycle. But even though it does sound empowering on the surface, this way of thinking where love and stability, they're so closely tied together, to how much money can my man spend on me, does start to raise some red flags later on, especially when we get onto how Liz presents her own relationships and what she expects from her partners. And that brings us to the biggest part of Liz's brand. If you've watched her videos, you've probably heard it a dozen times, which is don't settle, don't date broke men, you are the prize. It's this idea that, like, as a woman, you should never lower your standards, emotionally, financially, or romantically, and you should only be with a man who can provide, who can spoil you, who adds something to your already amazing life. And as for Liz, this wasn't just advice, this is genuinely how she just lived. She said in videos that she's never dated a man who didn't give her money, pay her bills, or buy her expensive gifts. One of her exes, who was her second boyfriend, wasn't even that rich, but she says that he was still a good provider because she made sure that she never had to worry about money. Another one of her exes was a full-on multi-millionaire.
My first boyfriend ever, when I was 19, he was a multi-millionaire. He was extremely wealthy and I was broke. And he would sometimes give me money, but like literally nothing in compared to what he has. And with that money, I needed to buy dresses to look good on the dates, whatever. So basically, I was still broke after that. He was wealthy, yeah.
Even with Landon, who is the guy that she was most recently engaged to, she said he spent over $1 million on her and brought her a massive engagement ring. And don't worry, we will be covering everything to do with the Landon situation later on. So yeah, this was not just a talking point for Liz, this was a whole lifestyle and this was her actual real life. Now, here is where things start to get a little bit weird, because while she's preaching independence and self-love, her version of being a high-value woman seems to heavily depend on how much a man is willing to spend. And instead of it being become successful, it becomes find someone successful and make sure he gives you everything you want. There's no judgment from me here if that's your lane, but it gets a little bit murky when you start positioning that as empowerment or spiritual growth or self-worth.
Say, and what do you bring to the table? Honey, there is no table for us to sit at. You have no money to buy the table. We're sitting on the ground. So rather ask, what do you bring to the ground? And besides that, me personally, I do not sit at empty tables. I sit at tables that are full. I don't need to bring anything else than my presence, my personality, who I am, and my beauty. I sit there and that's good enough for the guy. What do you bring to the table is broke guy talk. No guy that is actually willing to provide and actually take care of a woman will ever tell you, what do you bring to the table? Shut up.
Especially when she also told stories about kind of manipulating men into buying her stuff, like casually dropping hints at what stores she likes or acting surprised when they don't know what to gift her. That's not really confidence, that's kind of just strategy, and it blurs the line between dating advice and just having a full-on transactional relationship. And it only gets like a little bit more complicated when you realise that she was already living this luxury lifestyle before she was big on social media. Like, she wasn't even making that level of money herself yet, then somebody else in her life clearly was, and from her past we can point to it being her significant other. And this brings us to one of the next big things that people were questioning the Wizard Liz about, which is how on earth was she affording all of this before the influencer money started rolling in? A lot of people, especially on Reddit, TikTok, and in some YouTube comment sections, are pointing out that Liz's lifestyle looked a lot like the lifestyle that you would see from women who are financially supported by very wealthy men, aka a sugar baby. When I first heard about the Wizard Liz, I genuinely just thought she was a sugar baby. I didn't know that she was like this self-empowerment guru who like tried to make herself seem very like, oh, I'm so successful, like I deserve everything. I genuinely just thought she was like a sugar baby that was like trying to get girls to be like, oh, date above your standards and date as like the best man that you can. now that that's out of the way, let's move on to the cheating scandal, which this really rocked Liz's world, both offline and online, especially to our online persona. But before we really get into that drama, we need to establish this relationship. Now, Liz was engaged to Landon Nickerson, who is related to the gaming YouTuber Preston Plays, and Landon himself is a YouTuber. Now, one really shady thing that I found about Landon is he currently has a company called ARKH, which is very shady, and people on Reddit have started to expose it a little bit, as there was a lot of stuff promised but not a lot delivered. All this is alleged, obviously, but basically it seems like he created a startup company, promised a ton of stuff, and then seemingly just ran off with the startup money to Dubai. Great choice of men there, Liz. The first known interaction between Wizard Liz and Landon took place 3 years ago, according to both of them. Now, at the time, Liz was in a long-term relationship with her previous boyfriend, and Landon was also dating someone else. Now, Landon reportedly messaged Liz to congratulate her on her YouTube success, and while Liz describes it as a few polite messages spread out over 2 years, Landon's version suggests that they were in more regular contact, maintaining kind of like a friendly connection over time. Now, this detail did actually raise a few eyebrows when it was revealed, because Landon had been basically romanticizing Liz, or at least in contact with Liz, whilst he was in another relationship, which obviously is a little bit of a side eye knowing what we know about him now. Then, roughly a year ago, Liz released a video titled "Why I Decided to End My Relationship," where she opened up about ending things with her long-term partner. According to Liz, nothing was wrong or toxic in the relationship, and she just simply felt too comfortable, which in her view meant that there was no growth, excitement, or challenge. And people did point out that feeling safe and comfortable in a relationship is not negative at all, and if that's your sole reason for leaving, then there's something deep inside of you that needs to be, healed. Because I know, as somebody who has been through a lot of terrible relationships in the past, your first couple of healthy relationships, you're like, well, this is boring, this is a bit too comfortable, you're kind of constantly waiting for the ball to drop, and when it doesn't drop, you're like, this is boring, I want something more exciting, but there's nothing bad about it. It's actually good that it's boring. You're just not used to not having drama 24/7. And Liz just saw this relationship as a sign that she needs to focus on herself and grow independently. And you know what? If I was for years, since the age of 19, dating men for money, I would probably also be like, you know what? Now that I have my own money, I'm going to go and do whatever I want. I don't even blame her for this. But just a few months after the breakup, Liz posted a video titled "I'm Getting Married," announcing her engagement to Landon. They claim that they randomly ran into an airport. What? They claim that they randomly ran into each other at the airport in a random city, and Landon had recognised her, approached her, and the two kind of just instantly hit it off.
A lot of people think that you stalked me.
Which is crazy, by the way. Just got engaged when Liz posted that video. There were some comments that were like, I think this guy is like an upper stalker. He knew where she was going to be.
My friend does not have social media. She doesn't have Instagram, and I never ever post my location for safety reasons. Never ever. I will only post even the background where you can recognize something when I've already left. There's crazy people out there, So no way he could have known I'm in Athens, and especially there. So the crazy part is, me and my friend, we completely walked through this airport. We got 2 cookies, and we sat somewhere where we weren't supposed to sit at all. It was not our gate. It was just this random place.
This whole story is just so crazy.
It's really crazy.
Yeah, go ahead.
And then we sat there. I had a mask on and a cap, okay? No one recognized me. No one could recognize me. We were gonna get up. We were sitting there 5 minutes, get up and go to our gate because we had our flight. And then all of a sudden,
this big upper nerd walks up.
Len walked by, and I guess you saw me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw you from I guess, hold on, before you give the key moment. So from my POV, I was dealing with, before I met Liz, I was in a relationship that was just so difficult for me. I had this attachment that I had such a hard time really growing through and away from, and I was just kind of following this path that led me into Ibiza last summer, and I ended up meeting some people that I was going to go to Mykonos with. So it was like an Ibiza trip for 2 weeks and then a Mykonos trip. And the people that I was staying with ended up trying to scam me a couple times. They successfully scammed like $20-something thousand. And whenever I landed in Athens, which is where I was connecting to go to Mykonos, that whole trip got canceled. Like that part of it did. And so I was just sitting there and thinking, oh man, what the heck? Why is this happening? Like, God, I try to be a nice person. I believe you get what you give. So like, why is this happening to me? And I was like, you know what? Time to end my trip, go back to America. I went to go get my bags off the plane so they didn't go to Mykonos without me. And I realized I had left my backpack in a gate in airport security. And so I was like, wait, I really need that. I never lose this bag. So I went to go get my backpack. In that moment, I do remember feeling like I was being led in some way. Like there was just some path that I was supposed to walk down and follow. I didn't know why. I knew my bag was going to be right where I thought it was. I turned the corner, I get my bag. I remember I took a picture of it. It was like 4:30 p.m. I was like, oh, well, it's there. Okay, time to go home. I get my bag. I start walking to leave the airport. And as I'm walking, I try to be observant, but I'm like looking around, and then I walked a step and I felt like I entered just like a new dimension. Not to sound crazy, but I took a step forward and I felt like I walked through a veil almost. And then immediately I sensed that I need to look up right over here, and I look up and I see Liz sitting. She has a hat on. She had like a mask basically covering her face. She was eating food, so like I can't even really see her.
They fell in love quite quickly, bonded quite deeply, and soon began a very committed relationship. However, some people online have been speculating how valid and true this story is, but regardless of how they met, Liz called it manifestation. Sure, Jam. And in multiple videos, Liz stated that she had manifested her ideal husband. She did this by writing down specific traits that she wanted, such as emotional intelligence, depth, and a spiritual connection. But I bet she forgot to add loyal to that list. Now, shortly after, Landon appeared to fulfill every item on her list, and their connection was very fast, intense, and it was romanticized. Landon apparently had said I love you to Liz within 36 hours. He had been given a crazy amount of gifts and, a ton of words of affirmation, and they were already having plans and carrying out the plans for marriage and children within just literally a few months. And I think it's hard to notice this when you're in it, but a lot of people from the outside were like, girl, you're being love bombed, you're moving too quick. And within a few months, they ended up getting engaged. And not long after that, Liz announced that she became pregnant with his child. She announced the pregnancy publicly and began sharing the relationship online, including a Q&A with my husband video where they kind of presented this perfect, picturesque couple dynamic. To Liz and her followers, obviously, this probably appeared to be the ultimate successful manifestation story, but a lot of people were saying this is classic textbook love bombing, girl. And I hate when the word love bombing gets thrown around because I feel like everybody is constantly being love bombed at this point. This is the one scenario where I'm like, y'all got a point. And then it was found out that he was texting another woman behind Liz's back. Now, before I start reading these messages, I want to preface that these are messages that Landon, as a wife who is 4 months pregnant, at home, well, a fiance, this is what he's sending to other girls on Snapchat. I'm sorry, but if you have a kid on the way, delete Snapchat. Unpopular opinion, but please delete it. He says, are you still in Dallas? The girl says, yeah, why? He goes, just wondering who. All I know is still here. I just got back from London, in New York Tuesday, then back in Dallas for a week. Do you have plans? She goes, aren't you married? Yeah, okay. He goes, no, plus just looking for friends. He then changes the chats to delete immediately. She goes, since when aren't you married? Landon goes, yeah, well, it's a complicated long distance internet thing, but no, I'm not married, lol. Not a normal life for sure. She goes, so your whole relationship is fake? He goes, no, it's not, but I'm not married. That part is not real. She goes, what does that even mean? Because what does that even mean? Genuinely. And he does not answer the question, by the way. He goes, haha, do you want to see me? I can tell you in person. She goes, I don't want to hang out with married men, and I saw you wearing a wedding ring. He goes, well, that's not fair, but no, not married. She then proceeds to show a photo, a screenshot of Landon with a wedding ring on, and then just post that into the chat with a laughing emoji. No words. She ate no crumbs. He goes, on God, that's one for the video, but never mind, it's complicated. She goes, explain. Landon goes, no, ahaha, never mind. I told you it's complicated. Not legally married, maybe will be. She goes, either way, if you're in a relationship, you shouldn't be trying to hang out with girls. He goes, why are you going to come courtside with me then? Just curious, but your point is valid. She goes, what's your point? You invited my boyfriend and I, and we never came. He goes, I didn't know you had a boyfriend at the time. And no, not trying to pull a fast one on you, lol. Was just curious. She said, but you said it yourself, you are in a relationship right now, so why are you trying to hang out with me? He goes, well, was not trying to date you, but you're right. Even if the situation is complicated or unresolved, I shouldn't message you. I am sorry. Maybe I'll explain more one day. And those are the messages that he thought were like worth the risk of his long-term relationship. Now, Liz obviously does find out about this. She then addresses this on her Instagram story, saying, I will never ever create a fake narrative for social media. I will not preach something and not take the advice myself. Landon decided to make a Snapchat account and reach out to a girl to meet up. He was just with me in London, made a whole book about how much he loves me. This man wrote a whole book about how much he loves. What? 4 months in. Crazy things. Anyways, the girl reached out to me to my friend today, showed us evidence. He called the relationship fake. Meanwhile, my cat's still with him in Dallas, all my stuff is there in our apartment, and oh, I'm 4 months pregnant. He says he's incredibly sorry, but honestly I feel like I didn't know him at all. I feel stupid for ignoring the signs and dreams I had that I even told him about, and he told me I was crazy. Listen to your intuition, women. Men want to lead the world but can't even control their lust. It's weak. A man that can't control his lust will never ever be able to lead. I'm absolutely heartbroken and shocked. My haters can go celebrate. Haha, so funny. I will always have the last laugh though. He lost everything and I gained everything. Thank God. She then says that she's going to sell her engagement ring, which is around 100k, and donate the money to single mums. More power to women, amen. And honestly, I think that was quite a good decision on her part. Landon then posts the screenshots that we just read out, the Snapchat screenshots, and then says, my final comment, to any person saying that I planned to hurt her, that I never loved her, I pray you realise that you are only hurting her more. No woman should ever experience this pain, and no man should ever try to justify this pain regardless of what problems may exist in some relationship. This issue started before our pregnancy. This was not calculated. My wife, my greatest blessing, unfairly had no knowledge of something that I was too weak to even acknowledge myself. I hurt her deeply, and this is my greatest failure. God promotes good and despises evil. I pray the internet stops using this failure of mine to promote further division, distrust and hate. God blesses those who seek and honour his blessings. God revokes blessings from the dishonourable and replaces them with questions that lead us closer to him. I am committed to repairing all I have broken and working to ensure this never happens again. I am deeply sorry to all I have hurt, to my family, my team, and most importantly to Liz. I do want to touch a little bit on Liz's Oxford Union debate. If you don't know, I googled what an Oxford Union debate, but basically quite a prestigious thing to be invited to an Oxford Union debate. It's held at Oxford in the UK, and it's really famous because it has had a past of hosting very high profile speakers, politicians, celebrities, academic, and recently influencers to debate very important and kind of controversial topics. Now, debates are structured with two sides. You've got proposition, those who are supporting the motion, aka supporting the debate topic, and opposition, those who are against the motion, and opposition, those who are against the motion who are not supporting the debate topic. Now, the topic that Wizard Liz participated in was, has the commodification of women's bodies gone too far? She argued against the idea, meaning that she believes it hasn't gone too far, which already, when you really think about it, I mean, how often do you hear about Bonnie Blue? How often do you hear about Lily Phillips? And how much more prevalent are sex scenes in movies and whatever? Like, her points were that women actually haven't leveraged their sexuality enough for personal gain. Men should pay for their lust, and women should use the patriarchy against them to gain power through money. She also claimed that if she was a man with 8 million YouTube subscribers, no one would question how she made her money, basically accusing everybody that has ever criticised her of sexism and jealousy. Now, the first problem that people have with this debate is that she shut down a lot of, valid criticism, kind of, genuine concerns by dismissing anybody that was a critic of her as being jealous or a hater because, hey, if I was a man, you wouldn't be coming at me, But this just shuts down a very healthy debate. Her logic is very flawed and very oversimplified. And as somebody who's a woman, I know that I do not have to sell my body to get respect or to get money. Is it an option? Yes. But the thing is, usually it should be a last resort, and sex work is sex work, but hey ho. And I feel like we have seen a lot of models and mattress actresses come out recently being like, this should not be your last resort, You should try a lot of things before just relying on somebody for money. She claims that if women become rich from men, they'll gain power and men will start respecting them. But hey, there's a lot of very rich women, a lot of very powerful women, even those that are in the adult industry, and they still face disrespect and, stigma. So money does not guarantee respect or equality. What does is following, what society deems as respectful. And I don't know about you, but for me, being respectful isn't using men for money. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm so sorry I'm in a different location today. New mic as well, so I don't even know how the sound's going to turn out. But thank you so much for watching. Thank you for... My last video is nearly at 2,000 views, which is crazy. Literally, I stopped uploading 4 times a month. That's what I used to do, to 2 times a month. Next month's going to be a once a month upload because I'm in America for half the month. So I also have a vlog channel which I'm going to start posting on. I've got 1 video posted on there and 1 short, and if you could subscribe, that would really mean a lot to me. My Instagram and my vlog YouTube are all down below. Subscribe, please like, please comment, and thank you all, and hopefully I will see you in another video.